If you're a fan of men's hoops, women's hoops, or baseball, this sucked if you're a USC fan. But at least I have the unofficial start date to USC's football spring camp.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, it's always free, and you know how much I always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. USC fans already know why this weekend sucked. Men's hoop got taken behind the woodshed. Women's hoop gave up a 13-point second-half lead, lost the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship, and the baseball team, they're on a 5-game losing streak, including getting swept over the weekend. Talk about that shortly. So yeah, the men, they got their butts waxed by 30 points against UCLA to end the regular season. Wasn't a good showing. Coach Muss, pretty frustrated after the game. Talk about that here momentarily. Talk about the women. They had a 13-point lead in the third quarter. And then, oh no, game's over. They lost 72-67. They lost to the same school that they beat twice early in the season, UCLA. I know, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in the same year. But when you have a 13-point lead and you have Juju Watkins and you're out rebounding UCLA by a gazillion and you're getting extra shots every single time, I could lose this game. This is why I don't like to watch women's basketball. It was a hard watch. Not because they lost, because I felt like I was watching bad basketball. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but you know my feelings on it. So the women, they're going to have a number 1 seed. I'm not worried about. They will have a number 1 seed in the Big Dance. The men, they open their Big Ten tournament schedule Wednesday against Rutgers. The last time these two teams met was a little over a week ago in New Jersey. Trojans lost. So we'll see if their hearts are in this game. We'll see. Do they want to play 5 games? Do they want to? Are they entertaining March Madness, the Big Dance? I don't think so. As I mentioned, the women, they'll have a number 1 seed. They had a chance for the number 1 overall seed. But again, when you're up by 13 points, you got to do what's necessary. They didn't. They didn't make baskets, and they allowed UCLA to claw their way back into it. And it happened on the defensive end of the defensive end. Lauren Betts, that 6'7" Amazon that UCLA has in the middle, dominant in the second half. This is what the men need. They need someone who plays like her. I guess Rashawn Agee would be the closest thing. Anyways, I'm going all over the place. I'm not worried about the women. They'll bounce back. They'll make a deep tournament run just like they did last year. They made it to the Elite 8. I think anything less than a Final Four would probably end up being a disappointment. Again, we'll see what happens. As far as the men, I don't know what they did on Saturday at UCLA, but it was ugly. I think when there was about 3 minutes left, I walked away. I turned my back. I could not watch it anymore. Losing to UCLA in basketball, great. It happens. I get it. USC's had some streaks. UCLA's on a streak right now. But losing by 30, playing like you don't care, yeah, that bothers me. And I love the way Coach Muss talked about it after the game, about the lack of that rivalry vibe that he felt. And it's understandable. You know, when you have that many transfers on your roster, they're not going to get the nuance of USC versus UCLA. If you're not from LA, you're just not going to understand it. And I even brought this up during the football season. I asked Greedy Vance ahead of the rivalry games, what do you know about USC versus UCLA and USC versus Notre Dame? And he gave the answer, look, I've played in rivalry games before, ... So I understand what it's all about. Well, you don't. And I'm not talking about Greedy specifically. But if you are only around for a year or less, do you really care? Is your heart into it? What I saw from the men, it just felt like they were going through the motion on Saturday afternoon. It was hard to watch. So again, do transfers truly care? No, enough of that. Enough about basketball. Have you ever heard the saying, hope springs eternal? It's from the Alexander Pope poem, way back when. It goes, hope springs eternal in the human breast. Man never is, but always to be blessed. The quote means that humans, that no matter how difficult things are, regardless of the circumstances, the human spirit, it's inherent in us. We're always looking for that optimism, always striving to look beyond. At USC, what do we say? Fight on. Same thing. Hope springs eternal. Fight on. All right, well, let's do it again, right? Let's see what happens next. That's what fight on's all about. You lose a game, great. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, put on your big boy pants, go challenge them. The next time USC football plays is when spring camp opens. Hope springs eternal. Everyone is full of optimism for this year's football team. Well, according to a reliable source, I've been told that the football team has to be back on campus by March 25th. So spring break starts, I think, March 14th, depending on your class schedule. And those guys have to be back March 25th because unofficially, first practice is the. So again, just let me be clear. I have not heard anything from USC Sports Information Department. USC hasn't put out any type of press release. This is unofficial. But now that we know spring camp is right around the corner, and it's unofficially starting March 26th, we can start feeling those vibes, that hope, that optimism for this upcoming season. I'll tell you what, though, between now and when camp does open, these next 2 weeks are going to feel like an eternity. In the third segment of this episode, I'm going to discuss 5 things, actually 5 plus 1 things on offense that needs to be answered in spring camp. So when fall rolls around, we'll all feel better. We'll all feel that vibe that, yeah, you know what? USC is going to do it this year. And after this weekend, after the women gave up a 13-point lead and the chance to not only win the regular season championship, but the tournament championship, that fell by the wayside. The men, they got their throats and hearts ripped out by 30 points. Was it 79-49? Was that the final score at Poly Pavilion? And then, I know we don't talk about it very much over here at all. The baseball team said, you know what? Hold my beer. USC's baseball team got off to a 9-1 start this season. Since then, they've lost 5 in a row, including lost to UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and for good measure, a 3-game sweep to Oregon. So it was a pretty miserable end of the week for USC athletics, whether it's men's basketball, women's hoops, or the baseball team. Excuse me. So after this weekend, it's time to start focusing on football. Spring camp. I'll keep y'all updated on hoops. Don't get me wrong. You'll know what happens. I'll have an update after USC's game against Rutgers on Wednesday. But I'm with Coach Muss. Going on a little mini rant here, just like he did. You're all a bunch of bandwagon fans. Every last one of you. And if the shoe doesn't fit, walk away. But when it comes to USC fans showing up for basketball, I am glad Coach Muss called out the fans after the game. He actually walked away, came back and said, you know what, everybody? He was talking to the media at Poly Pavilion. That's what a home court advantage looks like. That's fan support. He was comparing it to USC's, or the lack thereof, at Galen Center. He called out the fans. He also called out the media, and I'm glad he did. He wants more exposure with the program. So I said, look, if the shoe doesn't fit, if you show up for men's hoops, great. You have no reason to feel guilty. But I am tired of the excuses, and so is Coach Muss. Well, if they win, we'll show up. What's wrong with supporting your team unconditionally, win or lose? The same thing happens with the football team. Fans show up for big games and when USC is doing well. Other than that, 50 to 60,000. That's why they reduced capacity. And USC fans, you can't even fill 77,000. All right, enough of my little rant. I'm a little bent out of shape. I hate watching USC lose to UCLA. But what I hate seeing more than USC lose to UCLA is USC fans who are apathetic and always come up with excuses. That's got to stop. Because I won't stop harping on it. Not until you guys start showing up. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Fine. Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn to do the same. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use promo code SH5, you can receive 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Your home should reflect your style with Wayfair. It's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need all in one place. And Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece, no matter your space or your budget. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all, and at prices that fit your budget. I've told you before, I've been looking for a new desk chair, and you know what? Wayfair has so many stylish options and a lot of great prices. And more than just furniture, I was also surprised to find everything from storage solutions to patio decor, making it my go-to for all things for the home. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's fair for just your style today. That's wayfair.com. WAFAIR.com. Every style, every home. If you're watching this episode of Locked On USC to start your week, it's March 10th, Monday. I should probably let you know there are just 173 days left until USC kicks off against Missouri State. Right around the corner. Time flies, and that opening kickoff is going to be here sooner than you know it. Trust me. But signing day is still ways away. That's off in December. I can give you the official countdown if you want, but we're just going to say that's in December. Every episode, you're going to know how many days left until USC kicks off. So signing day's off in December, which means like I said, there's a long ways to go. But that doesn't mean there's not recruiting news pretty much every day. I've got some more updates for you. Let's start with Brandon Arrington, the defensive back, the #1 athlete, state of California. Well, he's cut his final schools list down to 6, which means now he's one step closer to making a final decision. And yes, USC made the cut. His final 6 choices: Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, and USC. If you listen to this show every day, like you should, you've already heard me say that Arrington is taking his official visit to USC June 17th. He'll be joining 4 other guys from the state of California. These are the guys that are highest on USC's draft list, highest on their board. They've kind of prioritized them. Just to remind everybody, these names: Kenya Pepe, Mark Bowman, Talanoa Ely, Brandon Arrington, and Tom. So there you go. Those are the 5 guys. They're all from the state of California. Now, technically, Ely is a California guy. With that said, here's a little recruiting news update for you. He recently announced that he is transferring from Orange Lutheran, Olu, and he's going to move to Hawaii. He's going to enroll at Kahuku. It's a powerhouse program out there. I don't know if this came out of nowhere, but again, he's leaving his program that he's been with, and he's going to go play his senior year of high school on the islands. You can think of worse places, but why? Why is he doing this? I don't know. I've got my feelers out there. I'm trying to find out. I'm sure I'll get some details and I'll fill you in later this week. But with that said, I don't know if this gives USC an advantage or not, but I know that USC's relationship with the Polynesian community is pretty strong, and I'll explain why here in a second. But going from Olu, which I think had a pretty good team this year, I would think they would be one of the stronger teams in the Trinity League. Apparently, he's moving to Hawaii for his senior year. Before he does that, he's going to be taking some unofficial visits this spring. He's scheduled to be in Norman, Oklahoma, if you're watching this episode today, Monday. And then he's going to be back at USC on the 11th. And then he'll be heading up to Eugene, Oregon for an unofficial visit on the 13th. In January, he told On3 this. He's talking about his leading school at the time. The difference between Oregon and others is the amount of resources that they have. They've got everything in place for student athletes to excel and succeed in what they do. My interest in Oregon continues to grow stronger. They are currently the highest on my list, and this visit was great. That was in January, everybody, all right? Take a deep breath. Woosah. Remind y'all, he was at USC's junior day, February 1st. And this is what he had to say. USC made an impression on me. I would say they've made their way up the list, way up my list. The visit did help them. I enjoyed being there and hearing what they had to say. I would say the schools that I've visited already have an edge. Those are Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Oklahoma. I do think it's a tight race, though. So I gave you his unofficial visits this coming week. He has these official visits already lined up. You have UCLA on May 10th. Then he'll go to Brigham Young on May 27th. In June, he visits Oklahoma, June 6th, Notre Dame, June 10th, Texas on the 13th, USC, I told you, June 17th, that big California recruiting window. And then he finishes up his official visits at Oregon, June 22nd. Those final 2 visits will more than likely determine where he ends up playing his college ball, at least initially. I told you that USC's been beginning to focus in on the Polynesian family, the community, its relationship with USC. They took it to the next step, to the next level. I don't know who the folks are that's running their social media campaign right now at USC, but they're coming out strong. I mean, I would not be surprised if I see a haka coming out here soon. Yeah, do not be surprised. I have no news. I'm just thinking, why not, right? Because whoever's running USC's social media account, the most recent message they posted on X, it's a short 25-second video, and it's with the song Polynesian People. The artist is Norm. I'll tell you what, it's a cool song. And while he's singing, there's a montage of all the Trojan greats who have played in the Cardinal and Gold in the past. It's all spliced together. It's showing that emotional connection. So you're thinking, who am I talking about? Well, Troy Polamalu, Junior Seau, Ray Mealuga. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So now USC saying, all right, we want you guys at USC. Let me show you how much. And we're going to pull on your heartstrings. You all know this song by Norm, Polynesian People. You all know these players who played at USC before. You should be next. So again, it was a short 25-second video. It said a lot. And there was also one of these in there. I'm going to say it. Do not be surprised. Do not be shocked if there's a commitment on the way this week. Question is who? Is it going to be Sam Utu, the offensive lineman from Oulu? Talanoa Eli's former teammate? What about Malachi Lee, the offensive lineman from Hawaii? We'll find out together. If I find out something sooner, I'll let you know. But usually when it comes to commitments, you want to let the young men have their day. You don't want to out them before they get the chance. So whatever happens, if you miss it, make sure you're tuning in to Locked On USC every day. And that way you'll know what's going on. I'll keep you updated. So if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. If you haven't done it yet, why not? It's free. Click that red subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. Both of those are going to help the show continue to grow. And because you're not going to want to miss any information, click that bell notification button. That way you're covered. I'm your guy. Trust me on this. I will be your Sherpa through the off season. We'll climb that mountain together and you'll be ready. All right, one more segment to go. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. Using FanDuel keeps you in the action. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on, and it's easy and it's fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. USC spring practice is when their biggest questions get asked and hopefully at least partially answered. You don't want to wait till fall camp. You got to figure it out in the spring. So that way, during the summer, the team has an idea of what the pecking order is, what the depth chart looks like. They're working on the playbook. So when fall camp rolls around, you're ready to go. Spring camp is when quarterback competitions are settled. the transfer portal and the new recruiting class guys, they kind of all get introduced. Well, they get introduced to the helmets and pads. And the new coaches, they get a chance to kind of hit the field and start working with these guys for the first time. So here are 6 questions that need answers coming out of spring. As I told you at the beginning of the show, spring camp unofficially March 26th. Quarterback. Question number 1. Jaden Mayaba. Is it his team? Is it going to be Husan Longstreet's team? Or is Sam Heward going to press the redshirt junior? After being able to get familiar with the playbook last year during the spring, he waited 9 games. Jaden eventually took over the starting job. And now he is the incumbent heading into spring camp. He gets to take the reins. And he has to take that next step forward, though. He's got to show that he's ready to be the leader. In the 4 games that he started, he threw for 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. We know Jaden is big. We know he's strong. We know he can run. His talent is undeniable. We need these 2 questions answered by the end of spring. Is he ready to lead the team? And when I talk about leading the team, I don't mean just on the field. I mean vocally. Being the guy to encourage the rest of the team when things aren't going well. So he needs to do that. He needs to take the next step because it looked like he wasn't ready to do that last year. Maybe he's more of an introvert. To be quarterback, typically Lincoln Riley likes his guys to be a team captain. You got to be a little bit more extroverted. As well as he has to make better decisions. Cut down on those mistakes. You can't be throwing pick sixes. The other questions, offensive line. What kind of influence is Zach Hansen going to have? You're returning Elijah Page and Alani Noah. You know those guys are your starters at left tackle, right guard, respectively. Killian O'Connor is returning with a scholarship. Will he be your starting center, or is Jeonre Reed going to eventually take over? Tobias Raymond looks sharp in his start in the bowl game. So you're going to be able to hold on to that. So right now, you've got 2 starters. 3/5 of last year's starters are gone. Jonah Monheim getting ready to be drafted in the NFL. Mason Murphy at Auburn. And we know about the quitter, Emmanuel Prayon, who went up to Oregon. Yeah, he joined Bear Alexander in the quitters category. So spring questions that need to be answered. I think USC has enough in the offensive line room. They need to show that they have enough during spring, so the coaching staff isn't looking to the transfer portal. Here's another one. Who's going to be wide receiver number 3? You know how I feel about this. I think less is more with the wide receiver room. Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, they've moved on. Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, those are your guys. Those are your 2 wide receivers. Your 1 and 1A guys. Who's going to be wide receiver number 3? Right. Mekhi led the team in receptions and yards. Jacoby, he was the 2nd leading touchdown receiver in the Big Ten Conference. He returns. He had 12 touchdowns. Someone else from that room has to step up, though, because USC typically runs 3 wide receiver sets. And USC, in the first transfer portal, they didn't add an elite wide receiver. They brought in some young talent through the recruiting through the recruiting class. But Prince Strawn from Boise State brings some size. He's tall, he's long, he's got experience. Who's going to be wide receiver number 3? What about Lake McCree and the tight ends? You're going to use them? Lake is returning for another year. When he's healthy enough to play, he showed he can play that position the way you want to play. He run blocks, he pass protects, he's willing to make the tough catch over the middle. But I don't think we've seen enough of the tight ends. You got Joey Olsen, you got Walker Lyons, Carson Tabaracci, hopefully he's healthy. Walter Matthews, 6'7", freak, 270 pounds, 39-inch vertical. I don't know. Maybe we're going to see more tight end play with less wide receivers. What about running back? Is USC going to leave spring camp with all 6 of those guys? That'll be interesting. That's going to be interesting to watch. Brian Jackson, Amarian Peterson returned. You added 2 transfers, Eli Sanders and Waymon Jordan, but you also recruited 2 high school running backs. 6 guys. Is Lincoln Riley ready to lean into this running game? Speaking of Lincoln Riley, has he learned from last year? How many close losses did he absorb? How many gut punches left a bruise? All right. I talked about, is he willing to lean into the run game? There was too many games last year where USC had a fourth quarter lead and the clock wasn't managed properly. And that's not to take any, you win as a team, you lose as a team. The defense had their role, played their role as well. However, Lincoln Riley had a defense last year. He had a defense that was giving up less than 24 points per game. But USC also had an atypical Lincoln Riley offense that wasn't scoring consistently. That's got to change. I do not want to watch, I cannot sit or watch another USC football game where USC has the lead, the running game is working, and Woody Marks doesn't touch the ball for 10 minutes to play. Can't have that. That's how USC lost the game to Minnesota. So we'll see. Has Lincoln Riley learned? It took him a year too long to get rid of Alex Grinch. Hopefully he doesn't take an extra year to figure out how to play football in the big conference. Where just because you can pass the ball and just because you know how to create mismatches doesn't mean you have to do it. I'm thinking defenses have caught up to Lincoln Riley. He needs to adapt. He needs to change. So we'll see what happens. All right. This episode is over. It's kind of like a rant weekend, kind of a rant episode after a terrible weekend. But I'm excited for spring football. Hope spring's eternal. Recruiting's rocking and rolling. Women's hoops, they got to bounce back. Men's hoops, you got to beat Rutgers, and then you got to win 4 more just to get to the big dance. And baseball, hit the ball. All right. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.